question as it relates to NPS options and flexible schedules. I have been presented with NPS for my son who has had behavior spikes in high school. He's in his first year. He has been missing 3 hours of school due to intensive communication therapy at my cost, from the mom's point of view, not mine, to help with communication. I have his doctor recommendation as to medical necessity, but his current placement wants to only offer their recommended service 8 to 3 with 30 minutes per week push-in speech and no possibility of flex hour schedule. Now, before I go about NPS, I want to know, can I recommend push-in ABA support and modification to speech offering given the significant deficits? Got into a deep discussion with a speech therapist because they say, get ready for it, they cannot test IQ for him because he's African American. So they can only assess what he may need speech therapy, even though they clearly say he has a language processing disorder. Can I or should I be ready to accept the NPS or come prepared with my recommendation? And if I disagree, go to arbitration, or what's the next step for getting us to an agreement on services and thanks? And apparently she went on to tell me that they have suspended him at least 7 to 8 times now.
Confusing. That's confusing.
And that he has been suspended, and I asked her specifically, is that in-school suspension or home? She said it's home. I also asked, did he, because we have a speech delay deficit diagnosis, but he also qualifies under, he has a diagnosis of autism and qualifies for services under autism. I did ask her about that. My brain went poof when I saw that they were saying that they could not IQ test him because he's African American. I understand now more, but I still don't get it. So first of all, can you tell our audience because I don't even remember, what is NPS? That's non-public school?
Oh, NPS is non-public school. So what she really wants, if you just back up, she's got several parts to the question.
Yeah.
So she really doesn't want, it sounds like, non-public school. She wants instead a more flexible schedule where she can take him out and do these other things that she thinks are therapeutic for him. Now, when I said that the district got to decide this, that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be a discussion. Right. And so, I mean, I think it is an IEP team question. She can present to the IEP team her thoughts about, why she wants to do this way. And it sounds as if there's a cost argument, too, that it's going to cost the district less if he stays in public school. Now, query whether they are really ready for him to go to non-public school, and they're actually offering non-public school because in their view he's become a behavior problem. So she doesn't tell us anything about the bases for the suspension. We don't really know exactly what's going on, but we'll assume it's a manifestation of his disability. But sometimes when students become assaultive or dangerous, the district then and only then is willing to look at non-public school. So she would have an IEP team meeting, and she would present to the IEP team why she wanted this flexible schedule, and then the team would decide. And if she feels really strongly about this and the district says no, that's when you can have a due process hearing, or you can go to alternative dispute resolution, or some people call it informal dispute resolution. But it is not out of the question to do it in the way she's describing. Now, with respect to the suspensions, in California, you can't have more than 10 consecutive days of suspension, and you can't have more than 20 in a school year. At the point that starts happening, it's a change of placement without an IEP meeting, and that's violative of due process. So we probably need some information about exactly what's causing him to be suspended, and how it relates to the need for the flexible schedule. So the IQ testing issue is interesting. There was basically a case, Larry P. versus, I think, I can't remember whether it was against LUSD or it was against Wilson Riles, who was like the state superintendent of education at that time. But people said that it was discriminatory for African American students to be IQ tested because they had established statistically that they don't do well on standardized testing. And so LAUSD actually extended this one step farther, which is they don't IQ test for any student, at least, formal IQ tests. But there are like lots of other cognitive measures that districts or private assessors can use. So even if they're not administering a Stanford Binet IQ test, they do administer, and they have to administer tests that look at cognitive functioning. So I'm not really entirely clear. Is the speech therapist saying it would really help me to plan my lessons for student if I knew what student's IQ was? I mean, why is this even coming up with the speech therapist, Shannon?
Well, I think that that's interesting, but to me, the way I'm looking at it, and I did get more information from mom that I'm trying to have come up, but I'm having internet issues.
Uh-huh.
It seems like in this instance, mom is asking for more services.
Uh-huh.
School is saying, well, the way I read it, school is saying, we can't qualify him under this because we can't test him for IQ. And when
Qualify under what, Shannon? What qualify under what?
for more, I think that she's wanting to have, she's saying that he needs to qualify to be able to leave school and have a flexible schedule to have those more intensive communication services, because all they've offered him is 30 minutes of a push-in for speech, and she's saying he's got a severe communication issue that is causing him to be suspended, and they're saying they won't give him more services or accommodate his flexible schedule because they can't verify a need for it, because they can't test him for IQ because he's African American. Now, when I looked it up, it seems like to me that the Larry P. law was put into place because so many kids who were African American were being misdiagnosed as needing special education services and inappropriately put in special education. This seems like the flip to me, that mom is trying to say that he qualifies for more services, and they're using that law against her to say, we don't know because we can't test him. And that can't be right, can it?
Well, it's funny. There's a lot of different directions in which she could go. I don't really understand why the speech therapist doesn't have other instruments that the speech therapist could use to probe the speech issue. But if what is really needed is an IQ test, and the district refuses to perform an IQ test, that's a perfect situation, I think, for the parent to get some help and get an independent educational evaluation to deal with this question of cognition. I didn't say this at the beginning of the show because we started off a little differently than we normally do. But, that's the kind of parent, if they want some additional help, we would, take a look at what's going on and see if we could assist them, because we do, basically almost anyone that contacts us, if they need an intake, we'll, provide that free of charge, because we think that's really important. So she's got a lot of different things going on. She's got disciplinary issues going on. She's got an IQ question. One of the interesting things about Larry P. is that the district in some instances has said, well, we can't IQ test, but we can hire or contract with an outside contractor, and that person can IQ test. So there's definitely ways to work around this. If there's questions about the IQ testing, we could talk about it more next week. But yeah, Larry P. was supposed to, as you said, it wasn't supposed to be being used against students. It was supposed to be being used to help students. So it's not helping.